Have you ever had an item of clothing that you have wanted to have the pattern of so you could make it again? Well, today's video is all about that, us taking an item of clothing and turning it into a paper pattern so that then we can make it into another item of clothing. But before I show you that, let's see the bloopers.
I can be your help. Blah, blah, blah.
So, nope, I messed it up. Oh, yeah. You have to,
Oop, seam allowance.
Seam allowance!
Got seam allowance.
Oh yeah. Hi crafty people! Today Elijah and I are here to show you the pattern that we created here by cloning out a piece of clothing that Elijah already fit into to then go on and make this giraffe costume for him. I'm not sharing with you today the actual process of making this into a giraffe costume, but that will be next week's video. This video today I'm showing you how to take an item of clothing and to adapt that to make it into a pattern that then you can replicate that item of clothing again. So today I'm showing you how I cloned a jumper, a hooded jumper, and also some trackies. The tips that I'm sharing today about how to clone clothes are useful if you would like to replicate any item of clothing that you have. It's really great as a way to adapt. If you've got an item of clothing you like mostly the fit of, but you have got a few little tweaks you want to make, you can take that item of clothing, make those tweaks to then get a pattern that would be perfect for you. Or if the item of clothing fits you perfectly, then that obviously would work as well. So cloning clothes is a really useful skill, and I'm really glad that you're going to watch this video with us today. If you enjoy this video as you're watching it, don't forget to press that like button, and you can subscribe so that YouTube will notify you when my next video goes up, which will be the video of how I change a simple jumper and trackies pattern to make into a giraffe costume like this. So with all of that being said, let's get making.
My mum clones clothes.
Today we're going to be working on the start of Elijah's giraffe costume, and he's home from school today because he was sick the past few days, hence the pajamas. So today he's home and we'll be able to start this project together. So to start making his giraffe costume, I have here some clothes that we have already tried on Elijah to make sure they fit, and we're going to be cloning a pattern from these items of clothes so that we can replicate them. So we've got here a jumper with a hood and some trackies, and when we tried them on, how'd they fit?
Pretty well, but it just, the sleeves and the pants were a bit short.
Yes, so we're going to copy them pretty much the same shape and the width of them, but make them longer on the arms and longer on the legs. Yeah. So to make our pattern, I have these very large pieces of artwork from my kids that are having a second life as this pattern.
Yes. And there's heaps of them.
Yeah, there's heaps of them.
Wait, is that all of them?
Don't parents know there's heaps of them?
Is that all of them?
No, there's heaps.
There's thousands. That.
I taped the artwork pieces together in order to create a piece of paper large enough to trace out my pattern pieces. If you don't have artwork like this that you're willing to part with, then you could also use butcher's paper or wrapping paper or any other large paper surface like that. To clone our pattern, we're going to trace each pattern piece that's used to make up the item of clothing. That means we need to be taking into account where each seam is, where they've joined two pieces together, so that we know where each piece is separated from each other. Okay, I'm going to use a straight line. See how there's a straight line already on the paper? I'm going to use that. Actually, I'm going to move over so that we can add some seam allowance. Don't forget to add your seam allowance. I personally add about 1 centimetre seam allowance around the item of clothing, but I don't measure it, I just have a little bit of a guesstimate. So if you want to be more specific, you could get out a measuring tape or a ruler and actually mark out your seam allowance, in which case you could trace out the pattern first directly along the seam line of the item of clothing, and then go around again by adding in your seam allowance. I've just done roughly how the seam allowance would be. I'm not measuring it or making it too specific because I know that having these sort of very loose items of clothing, it won't matter if they're not exactly perfect. In this video here, you can see I'm tracing out the back of the pants, and in order to do that, I've got the back of the pants flat against the paper, and I'm tracing along the seams where the back pattern piece is. It is different to the front of these pants, so I will need to trace that out separately here, and I have to manipulate the fabric to make sure each pattern piece is smooth before I trace it out. Don't forget to label your pattern piece so you don't forget which pattern piece you have drawn, and you can add any extra details like whether you need to add seam allowance or whether you have already included it. If things are cut on the fold, you might want to write that too, and any other details like which pattern you're using this for. For example, I would write that this is for Elijah's size 6 track pants. So that is our pattern for our pants.
And then we're done.
Then we've got to do the jumper.
Hi, food.
The front and back of this jumper are exactly the same, so that meant I only had to trace out one pattern piece for that. I did need to be careful though, tracing around the armholes and around the neck hole for the hood to make sure that I'm keeping the body piece flat so that I'm tracing that pattern piece accurately, although I'm manipulating the sleeves and hood out of the way. So you have to move them out of the way while also keeping the body part flat against the paper. So I can't trace around the whole jumper, I'm just tracing around each pattern piece. So at the moment I'm just tracing the body part of it, I'm not tracing the hood yet. I'll have to trace the hood separately.
Why?
Because it's a separate piece that I join together when I sew it. So I need to trace it separately so I can cut it out separately, you know?
Got some allowance.
Oh yeah. Thanks buddy. To trace out this pocket on the front of the jumper, I just put the paper directly on top of the jumper and used my fingers to press around the edge of the pocket piece so that I indented the paper of where the edge of that pocket was, and then I just went around it with the pencil afterwards so that I could trace out where the pattern piece was. Tracing out the hood is a little difficult along the neckline edge, but I'll show you a little later on in this video how you can then check and correct any of the mistakes or problems that you might be having. So as long as you're doing it mostly accurately at this point, don't worry about it. Can you write the word hood on it? I'll get more paper.
It doesn't start with a H.
Yes.
And an O.
Yep, how do you write O?
2 O's. And then a duck, and then that's all.
Give it a go.
The hood. Does that say hood?
Up to you. Does it look like it says hood?
The.
Yep, you did. Good job. So then to do the sleeve, the sleeve is the same front and back as well. Whip, whip. Now, we're going to make this longer.
Whip, 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 whip.
Don't whip.
Oh no, we won't have enough.
Yeah, it's a bit tight, but we'll make it work. We're going to put this Thank you. This sleeve is the same on the front and back, so I'm able to cut the pattern piece out just one time and then cut the sleeve on the fold. I've lined up the folded edge of the sleeve with the straight edge of my paper in order to keep that folded edge of my pattern piece straight, and I'm labeling on my pattern piece that I need to cut this on the fold. Cool, let's do it.
Let's do it, now we have to cut them out. I'm going to cut straighter than you did with the pencil.
Yeah, if you can cut it straighter, that would be great.
No, I'm not. I'm going to cut on the line.
If you can make it straighter, that's fine. If my line's not straight, you can straighten it up as you cut it.
But what if I don't cut that properly?
I trust you, and it will be fine. No mistake is too big to be fixed, buddy. With pattern pieces that are the same left and right, I cut it out a little past the line that I've drawn, and then I'm able to fold it in half and more accurately cut it out to make sure that the lines are the same on both sides.
I'm going to start cutting this.
Sure, sounds good. So as you can see here, I folded the pocket piece in half because I do want it to be symmetrical, and now I'm going to cut closer to the line to try and make it the same size as what I patterned it out to be, but more even on both sides.
I've done it. Does that look good?
Perfect, buddy. Thank you. I did the same with the bodice piece. I cut a bit out from where the line was so that I was able to then fold this bodice piece in half and check that it was symmetrical, and in this case it really wasn't. And then I was able to cut closer to the line to make sure that both sides were the same. Ooh, that's not accurate.
Why?
Oh, doesn't matter, it just needs a little correcting. If you find that your pattern piece is uneven and you're needing to add to one of the sides, just get some of the scrap paper and tape it underneath so that you can extend the pattern in the direction that it's a bit too small. You know what we've got to do next though?
What?
We've got to double check that they're the right size.
Why?
Because what if they were the wrong size and we start cutting our fabric out the wrong way? That could be terrible. To double check the pattern piece sizes, I get our original item back up again, and I'm putting the pattern pieces that we've cut out on top of the garment so that I can see if it accurately matches the original piece of clothing. Anywhere where it is too big or too small, I'm just making those adjustments either by tracing it out or by adding in some paper or chopping out parts that are in the wrong spot, just to make sure that I've made it as accurate as possible to what the original piece of clothing was.
Yeah.
Ooh.
What?
Got to add some mouse. So with our pattern pieces now traced out and cut out, we're going to spread out our yellow polar fleece and we're going to cut out each of the pattern pieces. Some of them need to be cut on the fold, some of them we need to cut two or mirror them, so there's a left and a right. So we're going to lay out the pattern pieces onto our yellow stretchy polar fleece. We're going to pin them on in the correct direction and then we're going to cut around them. Now most of the things I remembered to add seam allowance, and the ones that I forgot, I have written on it, add seam allowance. So I'll keep that in mind when I'm cutting out these pattern pieces.
Yes.
Right.
Let's go!
Can you see how it's like not stretchy that way?
Yeah.
But it is stretchy this way?
Like this.
So go stretch it, go like this. Stretch it.
Easy.
And then stretch it this direction. Like here. And then hold the other hand here. Now stretch. More stretchy.
Oh.
Okay, let's not break it though, but yes, is it more stretchy that way? Great. So this is the width of the fabric. Okay?
We need
So
no bumps. No bumps.
Alright. If the pattern you've cloned also needs to use stretchy fabric, do keep in mind that the stretchiest direction of your fabric needs to go along the width of your pattern. Alright, so that is what the pants piece is. Exciting?
Yes.
Right. So what's going to happen now, I'm going to cut out the rest of the pieces and you are going to take the pins out of these ones. So to take a pin out, you hold the bobbly bit and you just pull and then put it in the tray, okay? As you cut out the pattern pieces, retain these pattern pieces and make sure you've labelled them with what they are and what they can be used for next time. And I usually put them in a plastic sleeve in a binder so that I can refer to these the next time I need a similar pattern. Okay, Elijah and I have cut out all of our pattern pieces that we need. We've got the fronts of our pants, including the pocket pieces like this that will go inside the front pant leg. We've got the back of the pants, we've got a pocket for the jumper, the body of the jumper, sleeves and a hood. So there you have it. You've now seen how I cloned a pattern from a jumper and trackies. If you have enjoyed this video, then don't forget to press subscribe to come back and see us transform that jumper and trackies into this lovely costume here. Do you want to put your hood on and we'll have a look what it all looks like? There we go.
My tail.
And your tail. So next week's video, I'm sharing all the details about how to make the tail, the ossicones and the ears. And I'll be sharing a free downloadable pattern for each of those extra pieces as well, in case you happen to be making a giraffe as well. If you'd like to follow what I'm up to during the week, then you can follow me over on Instagram at mymum.marie. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and until next time, go get creative and we'll see you later.